Have you ever noticed that some of the strongest people in a room are also the quietest? They don't shout. They don't interrupt. They simply sit, present, calm, grounded. And when they do speak, everyone listens. After 70, strength changes. It's no longer about how many stairs you can climb or how loud your opinions are. It becomes something deeper, something wiser. And the strongest people I know in this stage of life are the ones who made peace with who they are. Let me show you why and how. Point 1. Strength is no longer loud. It's rooted in restraint. When we're young, we're taught that power looks like being the loudest voice in the room. We fight to be heard, to prove we're right, to win. But something changes with age. Real strength after 70 isn't in pushing others. It's in knowing when to stay silent, when to listen, when to choose peace over proving a point. I think of my neighbor, Jim, 82, a former firefighter, sharp mind, quick wit. One evening, his grandson came home ranting about politics. Jim didn't argue. He simply said, "You might be right, but don't let anger carry your truth. It makes the truth too heavy." That's wisdom. That's strength. The kind that doesn't need to win the room, because it already won the war within. Point 2. They've faced loss and learned to carry it lightly. By the time we reach 70, 75, 80, we've lost. We've buried parents. Sometimes children. We've seen friends fade. We've said goodbye more than we've said hello. And that kind of grief either hardens you or softens you into something stronger. There's a woman I once met in a grief support group. Her name was Marion. She lost her husband after 52 years of marriage. But she showed up every week with cookies, a listening ear, and a soft smile. "I still cry," she said once, "but I've learned not to break when I bend." That, my friend, is strength, not the kind that lifts weight, but the kind that lifts hearts. Point 3. They don't react, they respond. Strong people over 70 know how to pause. They know that not every slight needs a response. Not every disagreement needs a debate, because they've lived long enough to know what matters. Take Jim again. A friend once accused him of being too quiet. Jim just smiled and said, "I used to jump into every fire. Now I just make sure it's worth the burn." This isn't apathy. It's clarity. It's the wisdom of not wasting your peace on things that won't matter next month, let alone next year. Point 4. They have nothing to prove, and that's power. The strongest people I know over 70 aren't trying to impress anyone. They've raised kids. They've had careers. They've made mistakes, learned from them, and let go of the need to be right. When you no longer need applause, you start hearing your own rhythm. And living by that rhythm is where strength truly lives. My Aunt Carol used to paint every Sunday. Not to sell, not for likes, not for praise. Just because the brush in her hand felt like peace. That's the strength of living for joy, not for approval. Point 5. They build others, not themselves. The loudest people often seek to be noticed, but the strongest elders seek to notice others. They ask how you are and actually wait for the answer. They show up, not to shine, but to support. There's this quiet man at my community center, Frank, 79. He volunteers every Monday, helping newcomers feel at home. Never boasts. Never interrupts. But when someone's struggling, Frank notices, and he sits beside them. He once said to me, "You don't need a title to change a life, just a heart that listens." I'll never forget that. Point 6. They've learned to forgive, especially themselves. This might be the deepest form of strength. Forgiveness, and not just of others, but of yourself. Many people carry regrets into their 70s. Missed chances, harsh words, broken relationships. But strong elders, they've learned that self-blame is too heavy to carry forever. They look in the mirror, not for perfection, but for peace. They say, "Yes, I failed, but I've also grown." And that truth sets them free. Point 7. They know silence can be sacred. Finally, the strongest people I know understand the sacredness of silence. They don't fear it. They don't rush to fill it. They rest in it. Because after 70, you begin to hear what silence offers. Stillness, reflection, and often healing. You don't have to be loud to be alive. Sometimes the quietest presence fills the whole room, closing gentle reflection and call to action. So, the next time you see someone quiet, someone calm, don't mistake their silence for weakness. It might be the deepest kind of strength. If you found your own quiet power after 60 or 70, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Or if you know someone whose presence brings peace without words, share this with them. And if this touched your heart, please subscribe, and pass it on. There's enough noise in the world. Let's make more space for wisdom. Take care and stay strong in your own quiet way.